United come away from Villa Park with nothing, but this time around, I couldn't fault too much of United's setup, but there were some common issues that just keep plaguing Amorim in his time at United. Looking forward, things are looking scary. Given the players that were already missing, then you add in that Fernandes injury, which I didn't even think was possible.
Where was the pain, Jameis?
Yeah, just pain. It was pain everywhere.
But we've known about the AFCON players for a while now, so we should have been preparing for that. We can't complain about it too much.
We're gonna do it anyway.
But let's break down this Villa game first. I'm going to first look at Amorim's out-of-possession setup and how we really did stifle that Villa short build-up. And then later on in the video then, I'm going to look at United in attack and why we struggled so much in that area. As always, guys, drop a like if you enjoy, subscribe if you're new around here, and let's get into it.
Okay, let's go.
First off, looking at the out-of-possession setup, and we saw more of that 4-4-2 press that we saw versus Bournemouth, and United caused Villa problems all game long with it. What we constantly saw was Mount and Fernandes locking onto the two Aston Villa number 6s, as we know Villa like to use this sort of box midfield in the middle of the pitch. So United knew that and set up really well for it. We had Dalot and Dogu being very aggressive on the Villa fullbacks, and then Cunha and Seshko then could look after the centre-backs. And Villa, we know they like to play short a lot of the time, but they couldn't in this one. United either forced them long or did force them into some turnovers, and it was good, really good setup from Amorim. And this is what we regularly saw from the game. Fernandes and Mount locking onto those two Aston Villa number 6s. You've got Dogu and Dalot then occupying those wide areas, occupying those fullbacks, and then you've got Cunha and Seshko then looking after the centre-backs. And then as Villa would try and play out Seshko, or Cunha would make this arcing run to lock off that one side of the pitch, and then you're forcing Aston Villa then largely to kick it long. And United did that very, very well during this game. You can see the amount of turnovers the Villa had in their own half. Obviously, United a lot less because United largely don't even try to play out. Villa, whenever they did though, United were on top of them. You can see the errors leading to a shot in this game, so United did create most of the opportunities this way. Another example of it, and this was sort of leading up to United's first goal in this game. Villa forced to go backwards as Dalot being very aggressive on Matson, the left back. Goes back into Lindelof, he's got to go back to the goalkeeper due to Seshko's pressure. Then you can see Cunha and Dogu then ready to pounce. Cunha comes across as that ball goes into the centre-back. Dogu then very aggressive as Cash gets that ball. And then Luke Shaw then, as that ball gets played down the line, he's very aggressive as well, backing up that press. Something that was pretty much non-existent at the start of the season at United when we were using that sort of 5-2-3 shape. But United now, using this 4-4-2, we're able to press high a lot easier as you've just got players in better positions. Luke Shaw can lock on, Dogu then trying to win that ball back again. United just in very good positions to try and win that ball back higher up the pitch. And that's exactly what led to United's equaliser in this game. Where Matson gets that ball, Dalot's very aggressive onto him. He's forced to go back to the goalkeeper. And then as that ball goes out wide then, Cunha can lock on, Dogu can close that gap onto Cash. Cash makes a mistake, obviously doesn't just get rid of it. Dogu can nick that ball back from him. United back into that game because of it. So it was this 4-4-2 press that led United to get back into this game. But there was also some issues with it as well. Because eventually, obviously, no system is perfect. And this system, playing in that 4-4-2, means you're going to leave Yoro in that right back spot. And I spoke about that confusion after that Bournemouth game. Because you're playing Yoro at right back, but he's a bit confused sometimes whether he's meant to be a right centre-back. Obviously, he's normally used to occupying more of the middle of the pitch anyway. So there were warning signs leading up to that goal. And this was the first one. As United, you got Yoro up against Rodgers in a lot of space there. This one ends up being offside as Rodgers gets that ball, so we didn't see the outcome of it. But this one a little bit later now, as United force Martinez to kick it long. As he does, Watkins wins that ball in the air this time around, and Villa then can get on their bike. They can get onto United's last line of defence, and you can already see Yoro backtracking. He doesn't want to go and engage Rodgers really wide on that right-hand side. Then as Rodgers gets that ball, United are retreating. Yoro doesn't sort his hips out, doesn't get in a good enough position. Rodgers can skip in field and he does it far too easily. There's not enough midfield reinforcements in there either to stop him doing it. So in fairness to Yoro, he doesn't have a lot of help. But then Rodgers can get that shot off on United's goal. We were just lucky this time around that he didn't obviously find those finishes that he did later on. But there was a very similar instance for the first Villa goal. As McGinn can ping it out to Rodgers on that left-hand side, Yoro is retreating. He's sort of marking the middle of the pitch as well. As you can see, there's another Villa player there that he's obviously more worried about in the first instance, which is not too bad. He plays it pretty well initially. Rodgers forced out wide, so Yoro, you're thinking he's in a decent enough position. But he doesn't do enough to engage him in the first instance, so he allows Rodgers to square him up. And that's where he really goes wrong. He squares him up, his hips are not set, Rodgers can skip in field again, and then obviously you're looking at it, Rodgers starts in this sort of position. But as you run it on, he gets into that position, and that should never really be happening. Yoro obviously doesn't do well enough, there's no doubt. But you're also looking, for me, at these sort of players. Dallow's marking that run, but that run he runs offside, and Dallow still just is marking him. There's no need for it. Ugarte, why don't you go out and help Yoro in that second instance then? Obviously, first of all, you're marking the middle of the pitch. But when Rodgers has that ball in this very dangerous area, why is no one going out there to help Yoro? And it's this sort of midfield sort of issue and protecting the edge of our own box that United have had constantly under Amorim. So we can look at the individual mistakes, yes, but also there are system errors there as well. And for the second goal, you could see United starting to retreat more into that sort of 5-2-3 shape instead of the 4-4-2. And we've known that that doesn't work. If you're going to try and press, you cannot be sat in that flat back five. Don't know whether it was instructional in that second half with the players we had out, or whether it was just players tiring in the second half. We're never going to know. But whichever way, United got caught out for it, and it led to that second goal. What I'm talking about, you can see here. Dogu, instead of being very aggressive onto Matty Cash, like he was in the first half, United has sat more in that flat back five. So Dogu's getting pinned. And you can see as the ball goes out to the right-hand side, Dogu never really does enough to sort of step out, like he was in that first half. The ball goes into Konza, and then you can see Cunha. I think initially before this, Cunha is thinking, he looks back and he expects Dogu to come and press. Dogu does, but it's just far too late. So this time around, instead of having that pressure onto Cash, Cash can play that ball down the line to McGinn. McGinn then can find Camara in the middle of the pitch. And then you're looking at it, United are starting to retreat. They're all sort of out of shape. Dallow, after him, sort of thinking that he needs to go and press. He gets caught a little bit more out of position then. And you're looking at it with United. Are we in a back four, in a back five? No one really knows. Kamara makes a bit of a bad pass. He forces Tielemans out wide. Dallow, no doubt, needs to do more to stop that cross coming in. But again, as you run it on, there are sort of system errors in there as this ball comes back in. Because as this ball comes back in, you're looking at Yoro, yes, he needs to do more. He's on his heels. Rodgers gets there first to nick that ball from him. But I've highlighted again Ugarte and this time Martinez now as well. The two centre midfielders for United who are meant to be protecting the edge of that box. As Rodgers takes that first touch, you can see Ugarte and Martinez. Martinez is not in a good enough position. He can't get back. Ugarte simply doesn't do enough to get really in that shooting lane for Rodgers. So again, you're sort of leaving Yoro to mark a big load of space by himself against Rodgers. Aston Villa's probably most dangerous attacker. So you're looking at United again. Are we doing enough with those centre midfielders to protect that edge of United's box and protect the United back line? For me, we're not. And we haven't done it consistently under Amorim. Yes, you're looking at Yoro, Ugarte, sort of individual errors. But again, these errors have been there no matter what United players have been playing. No matter whether it's De Ligt, Maguire in those centre-back spots. United's clean sheet record has been pretty abysmal for about a year now. So we don't do enough to stop those dangerous opportunities. And once again, we conceded more big chances than we actually created in this game. So if you're going to keep doing that, we're going to keep being a mid-table team under Amorim. Now in attack for United, because as well as United was set up out of possession, with the ball, I feel like it was very similar to that Arsenal game, the first game of the season, where everyone sort of thinks United are playing super well because we feel like we're dominating. We've had lots of the ball, but we don't really do a lot with it. And that's where I sort of question it a lot of the time, because in that Arsenal game, Arsenal were happy to sit back and let United have the ball. United made very little from it. And it was very similar, it felt like, in this Villa game, particularly in that second half. Obviously, you've got personnel issues with Fernandes going off. I understand that. There's not many people in world football that can recreate that output that Fernandes is going to give you. But again, there are constant issues with United that we've seen all season long, particularly when these fullbacks are the ones holding the width. And we saw that regularly again in this game. And my issues in this one wasn't just the fact that the fullbacks were holding the width. It was also the fact that they had very little support. So you're asking Dalot and Dogu to do a lot by themselves, as Cunha, when United had the ball in these sort of areas, never really did an awful lot to go out and sort of support Dogu and try and make these sort of overloads in the wide areas. And it was the same on the other side as well, as Mount was largely in field looking for these sort of areas and never really going out there to support Dalot. So in fairness to Dalot and Dogu, when they're there holding the width, they're obviously in an island by themselves, and you're asking fullbacks then to go and try and beat someone 1v1 and try and create something out of nothing. It's never really going to happen, and we saw in this game that it wasn't really going to. United created one good chance in that second half, and to be fair, that was from Dogu getting that ball in the box and Cunha getting on the end of it. But largely, we saw how comfortable Villa really were. Then my other issue with United in attack was always going to be the fact that I know the Fernandes going off is going to hurt you. And people said that Amorim's in-game management in this game was good, but I just can't really agree with that. When you're bringing on Martinez and bringing on a centre-back for a very attacking centre midfielder, you're looking at it and it's a very defensive move for me. Because you're looking at United's starting lineup, and this was the starting lineup. United got 4 attacking players to start the game. That's never been enough. We've spoken about the full-backs holding the width for, obviously previously. So United in attack have always been very limited whenever we've played this sort of shape. But then you run it on, and after United make that sub to start the second half, we've got 3 attacking players. That's it. So how do you really expect to create a load of chances? You're simply just not. And in fairness to Martinez, he did play well. Villa did give him a lot of time and space on the ball, so I'd be very cautious of obviously United throwing him into a lot of other games in that centre midfield position. But Martinez played some lovely passes out from that number 6 position in this game. But United having those just 3 attacking players to start that second half, and we wonder why then we struggle to create very good opportunities from open play. Well, it's not hard to see why. And then you're looking at United's shots throughout the game, and again, it's not hard to see why United struggle to create big chances. Largely, I think Cunha is responsible for a lot of these shots, because he loves to have a shot from everywhere, and it's going to be a problem when you're having Cunha in there and he thinks that he has to do everything. Spoke about United's lack of attackers. Obviously, Cunha, he's going to think he needs to put the team on his back. And I think largely that's what we saw, particularly in that second half, and United just didn't create enough good opportunities in this Villa game, and we can cry about how we were the better team, and we probably were for large portions of the game. But United in attack still, when the other team allows us to have the ball, when the other team sits back and defends, United still do very, very little when we can't counter-attack on teams. So there we are, guys. I do think, yes, we did largely set up pretty well in this game. But there were those systematic flaws that we consistently see under Amorim now. So for people saying he's completely void of blame from this game, I'm not buying it. Yes, obviously we're going to struggle with the players out for AFCON, and obviously Fernandes' injury now, the whole minor situation, whether he's injured or not. That's obviously going to be unfortunate. But you've just got to look at it and still think that there's still constant issues. The way whatever players are in there, the way that we're set up is still just simply really not good enough. And I'm still going to need more. But as I've said, the out of possession setup was much better. But there are still a lot of issues for United and Amorim to really resolve now. And with the personnel issues out, it's going to be a struggle in the next few games. Let me know what you guys thought of the Villa game down in the comments down below, guys. As always, drop a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here. I'll catch you in the next one.